The UK national average house price right now is £268,000. That number feels real. That number feels like something a human salary might reach. London's average is £542,000. Just sit with that for a second. Not a Zone 1 penthouse, not a Victorian terrace in Notting Hill. The average. Across every borough, every property type, every front door in this city, £542,000. The southeast outside London is already above £300,000. But London is not an extension of the national story. It is its own economy, its own gravity, its own set of rules. And the mortgage rates you are borrowing at today are nothing like they were 4 years ago. The Bank of England base rate is sitting at 3.75% right now. The best 5-year fixed deal you can get from a major lender is 4.28%, not the 1% deals that flooded the market in 2020 and 2021. Those are gone. This is the new normal. Now here is the number that will frame everything else in this video. The median London home costs 11.4 times the median London salary. Not the UK median, the London median, which is £47,455, 11.4 times on a single income at today's prices. That is almost mathematically impossible without help. A second income, a large deposit, a government scheme, or all three. If that number surprised you, the rest of this video is going to do some work on you. Stick around, and if nobody has told you this stuff before, hit subscribe, because that is exactly what this channel is for. Before we run the numbers by salary, you need to understand the system, because the number the bank gives you is not the number you think it is. Every major high street lender, Barclays, NatWest, Halifax, Nationwide, uses income multiples to calculate what they will lend you. The standard baseline is 4.5 times your gross annual salary. That is the rule of thumb this video uses because it is what applies to the majority of buyers with average deposits. There is something you should know about higher multiples. In early 2026, several of these lenders quietly raised their ceiling. Nationwide, NatWest and Barclays will now lend up to 6 times income, but only if you earn over £75,000 on a single income, or £100,000 or more combined. Halifax goes up to 5.5 times for qualifying first-time buyers. These deals exist, but they are not for most of the people watching this video, and they come with larger deposit requirements, so we use 4.5 times as the honest baseline. Gross salary multiplied by 4.5 equals your maximum mortgage. Write that down. Now here is the part that trips people up. When you sit in front of a mortgage advisor, the lender does not just check whether you can afford the repayments at today's rate. They stress test you. They ask, could you still make the payments if interest rates spike to 7 or 8%? That is the standard variable rate, plus roughly 3 percentage points. The margin lenders are required to model. This is why people walk into mortgage appointments expecting one number and walk out with a smaller one. Your salary supports a certain loan. The stress test quietly shrinks it. The bank is not trying to be cruel. It is trying to make sure you do not drown if rates move. But if you did not know this was happening in that room, you do now. This is the kind of thing that should be taught in schools. It is not. Hit subscribe if you want more of it. The ONS median full-time salary in the UK right now is £39,039. This is not a low salary. This is exactly the middle. Half of all full-time workers in the country earn less than this. At 4.5 times income, the bank will lend you £175,500. Assume you have a 10% deposit. That is £19,500. Your total buying budget is roughly £195,000. The London average is £542,000. Your budget is not a third of that. What does £195,000 buy in London? Almost nothing with a front door attached. You are not in Zone 1. You are not in Zone 2, 3 or 4. You are searching the outermost fringes of Zone 6 and beyond, and even there you will struggle. There are pockets, there are occasional outliers, but you will be competing hard for them and they will go fast. Your monthly repayment on that £175,500 mortgage at 4.28% over 25 years is roughly £954. Your monthly take-home on £39,000 after tax, national insurance and a 5% pension contribution is around £2,500. That is just over 38% of your net income, just on the mortgage. Add council tax, add bills, add the service charge if it is a leasehold flat, and in London it probably is. Your total housing cost quickly clears 50% of what you take home each month. That is not comfortable. That is surviving. London ownership on a single median salary, alone with no other help, is not a realistic conversation. That is not a personal failure. It is arithmetic. If you are on that salary right now and felt that, good. That is the truth, not a failure. Keep watching because the picture changes. And if this is the first time someone has laid this out plainly for you, subscribe. There is more where this came from. On £60,000, the bank will lend you £270,000. Add a 10% deposit of £30,000 and your total budget is around £300,000. That is still barely half the London average, but something shifts at this level. You are no longer outside the conversation, you are at the edge of it. Barking. Average around £364,000. Still above your ceiling, but you are in the same postcode of the discussion. Croydon. Around £393,000. Lewisham, £491,000. These boroughs have properties that come in below the average. Supply is limited, competition is fierce, and you may need to look hard, but properties exist near or below £300,000 in the outer reaches of the city, £100,000 in the outer reaches of these areas. The honest verdict: on a single £60,000 salary, entry-level London is the frontier. Shared ownership is not a backup plan here, it is the plan. It is the lever that makes this work. At £100,000, something feels like it should have cracked open, a six-figure salary. This should be the answer. The bank will lend you £450,000. With a 10% deposit of £50,000, your total budget is around £500,000. You are still below the London average. Still. But for the first time on a single income, you are having a real conversation. A two-bedroom flat in Zone 3. A small terrace in Zones 4 or 5. You are not in Zone 1. You will not be on any single income. But London is no longer closed to you. Now here is the thing that nobody warns you about at this salary level. The moment you cross £100,000, the government begins withdrawing your personal tax allowance. For every £2 you earn above £100,000, you lose £1 of your personal tax allowance, £100,000. You lose £1 of your £12,570 personal allowance. By £125,140, it is gone entirely. And while it is being stripped away, your effective marginal tax rate is 60%. 60%. The bank lends on your gross salary, you live on your net. At £100,000, your monthly take-home after tax, national insurance, and a 5% pension contribution is approximately £5,296 a month. Not the £6,500 some people assume. £5,296. That changes the affordability picture significantly. The mortgage looks manageable on paper. On your actual bank statement, it is tighter than the number suggests. Zone 2 and inward remain a stretch on a single income at this level. Zone 3 outward is where you are working with. Now the picture changes. Two people, two median salaries, £39,000 each, £78,000 combined. This is the most common professional household in London. This is most people. At 4.5 times combined income, the bank will lend you £351,000. Add a 10% joint deposit of £39,000 and your total budget is around £390,000. Walthamstow, average around £525,000. Still above you, but Waltham Forest Borough has pockets. Lewisham, £491,000. Bromley, around £509,000. Bromley, around £509,000. Sutton, around £445,000. Croydon, roughly £393,000. At £390,000, you are £190,000. You are competitive in parts of Croydon, Sutton, and the outer fringes of several Zone 4 to 6 boroughs. This is not the London dream, but it is the London ladder. The majority of UK mortgage approvals now involve joint income. Dual income is not the exception. It is the norm. It is the system working as it was designed, for two incomes in a city that long ago priced out the single earner. Two people, £50,000 each, £100,000 combined. On paper, the maximum mortgage looks identical to the single £100,000 earner. £450,000. Same total budget of around £500,000. But this is where the maths quietly diverges. Neither earner crosses £100,000 individually. Neither one triggers the personal allowance taper. Both retain their full allowance. Your combined take-home is meaningfully higher than the single high earner's £5,296 a month. You are £196 a month. You are working with closer to £5,900 to £6,100 combined, depending on your pension contributions. The mortgage payment the same, the breathing room around it better. This is where outer London begins to feel genuinely accessible. A 3-bedroom semi in zones 4 and 5. Bromley, Sutton, Havering, Enfield. Most of outer London is now within range. Not comfortable. This city is never comfortable, but viable. On the ladder, with room to live. The bank tells you what it will lend. It does not tell you everything you need to spend before you get the keys. Stamp duty. And as of 1 April 2025, it got more expensive. The nil rate band for standard buyers, the chunk you pay nothing on, was cut from £250,000 back down to £125,000. For first-time buyers, the relief threshold dropped from £425,000 to £300,000. These thresholds were temporarily raised during the pandemic years. They are gone now. Here is how it works today. If you are a first-time buyer purchasing a £400,000 London flat, you pay £0 on the first £300,000, then 5% on the remaining £100,000. That is £5,000. If you are a home mover buying the same property, £0 on the first £125,000, 2% on the next £125,000. That is £2,500. 5% on the remaining £150,000. That is £7,500. Total, £10,000. Same property, £5,000 difference. Depending on where you are in the buying process, that matters enormously. And if you are buying a second property or a buy-to-let, the additional surcharge is now 5% on every single band. That same £400,000 purchase becomes an eye-watering stamp duty bill of approximately £30,000. But stamp duty is only the £1,000. But stamp duty is only the beginning of the hidden cost. Work through a realistic £400,000 London purchase. 10% deposit, £40,000. Stamp duty. First-time buyer, £5,000. Solicitor and conveyancing fees approximately £1,500. Home buyer survey roughly £600. Mortgage arrangement fee around £1,000. Removals approximately £800. That is between £49,000 and £54,000 before a single box is unpacked. These are typical current ranges. Your actual legal fees, survey costs and removal charges will vary depending on your property and location within London. And then, if you are buying a flat, which in London you almost certainly are, you are buying into a leasehold. Service charges of £2,000 to £5,000 per year are common in London. That is between £167 and £417 per month every month on top of your mortgage payment. It is not in the mortgage calculator. It is not in the bank's stress test. It is just there, reliably, landing in your account like a quiet tax on London flat ownership. You need to know this number before you make an offer, not after. Nobody tells you this at the mortgage appointment. That is why this channel exists. Subscribe so you do not walk into a room like that unprepared again. The bank tells you the maximum it will lend. The bank does not care whether you can eat after the payment goes out. There is a rule that has been used in personal finance for decades, and it is the one that keeps you sane. Your total monthly housing cost should not exceed 30% of your gross monthly income. Not just the mortgage, everything. Mortgage payment, council tax, buildings insurance, service charges if you are leasehold. Let us run it at the median salary. £39,000 a year. Divide by 12. Your gross monthly income is £3,250. 30% of that is £975. That is your ceiling for total housing costs. Now subtract your London Band D council tax. Across most London boroughs, Band D sits around £170 a month. Some lower, some higher. Subtract buildings insurance, roughly £40 a month. That leaves you £765 for the mortgage payment itself. At 4.28% over 25 years, £765 a month supports a mortgage of approximately £138,000. The bank will lend you £175,500. That £37,500 gap is not theoretical. It is the difference between a home that works and a home that keeps you awake at 3 in the morning, recalculating whether you can afford the boiler service. Now, the tools that can actually close the gap. The lifetime ISA. You can put in up to £4,000 a year. The government adds 25%, £1,000 of free money every year on top. Over 5 years with modest investment growth, that is roughly £25,000 towards your deposit. Open one today if you have not already. But, and this is a critical London-specific catch, the Lisa property price cap is £450,000. In a city where the average is £542,000, a significant number of properties will sit above that ceiling. If you buy a property above £450,000 using a Lisa, you do not just lose the bonus. You pay a penalty that claws back some of your own contributions. Know this before you rely on it. Shared ownership. You buy between 25% and 75% of a property and pay subsidised rent on the portion you do not own. For the median earner on a single London salary, this is often not a compromise. It is the only viable route onto the ladder. It is how the maths can actually work. First Homes, a government-backed scheme offering discounts of 30% to 50% on new builds for first-time buyers. Availability varies across London boroughs. It is worth checking your target area because when it is available, it is meaningful. And Help to Buy. If you were waiting for that, it closed to new applicants in 2022. It is gone. Let us bring this together. On £39,000 alone, London ownership is effectively closed without shared ownership or a significant gifted deposit. That is not a reflection of your choices or your worth. It is arithmetic, and the arithmetic was not designed with a single median earner in mind. On £60,000 as a single income, the outer fringes are within reach but thin. Shared ownership is the lever. On £100,000 solo, outer London opens up, but the tax system pulls harder than most people expect. Your take-home is £5,296 a month. Budget from that number, not from the gross. The most realistic path into London ownership right now in 2026 is 2 incomes, combined somewhere between £78,000 and £100,000 or above, targeting zones £100,000 or above, targeting zones 4 to 6. It is not glamorous. It is not the Zone 2 flat the lifestyle magazines describe, but it is on the ladder. And the ladder matters. Whatever your bracket, carry one rule out of this video. The bank maximum is not your budget. The 30% rule is your budget. The number that means you can make the mortgage payment and heat the home and feed the family and save something for a future that does not look like this month repeated indefinitely. The number that means you can sleep. Your London home should be the foundation, the asset quietly working in the background while you live in it, not the thing that drowns you. London is expensive, but expensive is not the same as impossible. It just requires a different kind of maths. If this video gave you one number you did not have before, subscribe. There are a lot more numbers where that came from. And in London, knowing them is not optional.